When I walked out to the dock that morning, my heart stopped. The space where my boat had rested for years, my pride, my therapy, my last connection to my son, was nothing but empty water. And there, standing on the shoreline in her floral dress with that smug grin, was Karen, our HOA president, calling down like a queen on her balcony. Community doesn't need your rusty junk cluttering the view. She thought she'd won. 5 minutes later, she learned what happens when you push a sailor too far. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's John Miller. I'm a retired Navy man settled down with my wife Lydia in a lakeside neighborhood that's run more like ruled by the HOA. My boat, a 19-foot second-hand vessel I'd poured years into restoring, was more than fiberglass and wood. It was where I found peace after the Navy, where Lydia and I watched sunrises over coffee, and where my boy Daniel, before he was taken from us in a car accident, laughed louder than the gulls overhead. So when Karen called it junk, she wasn't just mocking a piece of property, she was spitting on the last place I still felt Daniel with me. And Karen, well, she'd always had it out for me. The first run-in was over my mailbox. I painted it navy blue, same as my uniform. She stormed over clipboard in hand, tapping her pen like a ticking bomb. Subsection 14B mailboxes must be black or white. I had a week to repaint or face fines. Then came the grass fiasco. I was gone for a week, came home to find an orange violation notice stapled right above the American flag on my door. My crime grass an inch too tall. Half the neighborhood lawns were worse, but somehow only mine got flagged. And then the dog incident. My old lab Murphy barked at a squirrel for 30 seconds. Karen stood there with a stopwatch, an actual stopwatch, and filed a noise complaint. HOA policy said no continuous barking beyond 5 minutes. Murphy couldn't bark that long if he tried. Each time I told myself to let it go. But that morning, staring at the empty dock while she gloated, I knew she'd crossed a line. Neighbors peeked out with their coffee mugs, some pretending not to notice, some giving me that half-hearted shrug that meant, "Sorry, buddy, but what can you do? It's Karen." For a moment, I almost believed it. Maybe I really was just the neighborhood punching bag the guy Karen had picked for her personal entertainment. But then I walked back inside, saw the photo of Daniel on the mantel grinning with that monster carp he once caught, and I remembered who I was. I wasn't some pushover. I'd weathered storms that would have snapped Karen's clipboard in half. And if she thought she could sink me, she'd just picked a fight on the wrong waters. Act 2. Escalation and Turning Point. A week later came the annual HOA picnic. Burgers, sparklers, kids running barefoot. It was supposed to be about community. But for Karen, it was her stage. The moment she spotted me and Lydia walking in, she grabbed the mic like she'd been waiting all year for this. "Good afternoon, neighbors," she sang, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Let's take a moment to celebrate our progress. Look at that lakefront. No more rusty, unsafe junk cluttering the view." She pointed straight at my empty dock. A few people laughed. Most just shifted uncomfortably. My face burned and every muscle in my body begged me to shout to call her out right there. But I forced a thin smile and kept my mouth shut. Out of the corner of my eye, though, I noticed something. Families like the Johnsons, the Millers, the Alvarezes. They weren't smiling. They were watching Karen the same way I was, tight-lipped, tired, fed up. That night I lay awake, replaying it all. Her voice in my head calling my boat junk. My neighbor's pitying stares. I thought, maybe she's right. Maybe I should just sell the house, get away from this mess. Maybe I'm the fool clinging to memories and making life harder for Lydia. For the first time, I considered surrender. But then I remembered something the Navy drilled into us. Every storm has a weak spot. You don't fight the whole wave, you find the crack and push. So I pulled out the thick binder of HOA bylaws, sat at the kitchen table for 3 nights straight, highlighter in hand, while Lydia kept me supplied with coffee. And there it was. Article 7, Section D. Private vessels exceeding 24 feet must register annually with both the County Harbor Office and the HOA Compliance Committee. My boat 19 feet. Karen's pride and joy. 32 feet of gleaming fiberglass. I nearly laughed out loud. A trip to the County Harbor Office confirmed it. No registration on file for Karen's yacht, not for 5 years. That was the crack. And I was ready to push. But I couldn't do it alone. I started small chatting with neighbors. Mr. Johnson muttered about Karen once threatening to fine him for flying the flag on the wrong kind of pole. Mrs. Miller whispered about how Karen made them take down their kid's swing set because the color clashed with her lake view. The Alvarez boy told me she threatened to call the cops because he skateboarded past her driveway. Different stories, same theme, abuse of power. Little by little they opened up. Some even handed me documents they'd kept: fines, warnings, missing complaint letters. Karen had left a trail and I was gathering it piece by piece. The final piece came from an old friend, Mark Henderson. We served together before he joined the Coast Guard. I hadn't spoken to him in years, but when I explained, he whistled. "John, if her vessel's unregistered, that's a federal issue. And if she's been using HOA funds for upkeep, that's fraud. Send me what you've got. If half of it's true, we'll make sure her yacht goes on a little trip." For the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. Karen thought she'd humiliated me. What she'd really done was hand me the rope she'd hang herself with. Act 3. The Showdown. It all came to a head on a Sunday morning. The air was soft, kids running with popsicles, dogs barking near the lake. And then, like she'd rehearsed it, Karen strutted out in a blinding orange sundress, oversized sunglasses perched like a crown megaphone in hand. She climbed aboard her 32-foot yacht gleaming under the sun and boomed across the water. This is what our community is about. Standards, pride, beauty. Not rusted old dinghies cluttering the view, but class. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. But I saw the rolled eyes, the clenched jaws. And then, the low rumble. 2 Coast Guard patrol boats cut across the lake, white hulls slicing the water. Engines growled, insignias flashing in the sun. The crowd fell silent. Karen squinted, still clutching her megaphone. "Oh, what a lovely surprise. We're being honored with a visit." The lead officer stepped out, bullhorn in hand. "Attention, vessel owner. You are in violation of federal harbor regulations. This vessel is hereby impounded until further notice." The words hit harder than cannon fire. Karen blinked, laughed nervously. "Excuse me, I'm the HOA president. This is harassment." "Ma'am," the officer said flatly. "Your vessel has not been registered in 5 years. Safety inspections incomplete. There are also allegations of misuse of community funds. We are authorized to tow it immediately." Her megaphone wavered. "No, you can't. This is a conspiracy. Somebody stop them." But nobody moved. Not one neighbor. The officers worked with precision, tying ropes, securing lines. The winch whirred, and Karen's yacht groaned like a guilty beast being dragged to judgment. That's when the laughter started. Not cruel, not loud, just bubbling up from the crowd. The Millers hiding smiles, the Johnsons chuckling, the Alvarez boy holding his phone high, live streaming the whole thing. Karen shrieked, mascara streaking down her face. "Stop them! That's a 6-figure vessel." One officer answered calmly, "This isn't theft, ma'am. This is the law." The yacht shuddered, pulled slowly away from the dock, shrinking against the horizon. Karen collapsed into a folding chair, clutching at air as her clipboard slipped from her hand and clattered on the dock. The Queen had lost her crown. And me, I didn't say a word. I just tipped an imaginary sailor's hat, the kind of salute you give when the tide finally turns. Her eyes met mine, and she knew. Closing beat. Karen's downfall wasn't loud. It wasn't even violent. It was precise, inevitable, like a storm finally breaking over her own head. And as her yacht disappeared into the distance, so did the last shred of fear she'd held over us.